Hey, it's Justin. I realize for many of you this is the first time you've ever seen a proper demonstration of how to wear a flannel shirt. You'll notice, yes, it's tucked in, although there are circumstances that will allow a flannel shirt to be untucked, and that is if it is untucked naturally over the course of a day of hard work, or if you're cleaning up for dinner and you want to stay out of trouble and you just don't quite have the time to get that shirt tucked back in before you sit at the table. That would be appropriate. You also notice the absence of flip-flops, wearing proper boots, and among other things. Absent, in addition to flip-flops, would be a $20 coffee and man bun. Now don't get all mad at me, I don't make the rules. They're in the good book. That's right. Second Misunderstandings, chapter 1, verse 1. Thou shalt not wear a flannel shirt unless thou hast chopped wood. Okay, I told a buddy that flannel shirt joke, and he kind of got serious with me. And he said, that's right. A flannel shirt is not an article of clothing. It is a badge that you earn that says that you have gone into the woods, you have chopped down a tree, and you have survived. And, well, I'd have to agree with him. And, yes, I've earned my flannel shirt. But what I want to talk to you about here is, if you would, let your mind go on a little bit of a journey with me. Let it wander. Back 2,000 years ago, to the Roman Empire. The city is Jerusalem. The time is Passover. Over 1 million godly people have crowded into the city to celebrate Passover. They offer clean animals up for sacrifice to cover their sin over the past year. They come this same week every year. It's what their scriptures say they must do. And the city is packed. There are restaurants, guest houses, all full. And what I want to talk to you about happened on a quiet back street. No one's written about this individual, but we know he had to be there. An old Roman timber cutter, working hard, trying to make money. Go with me now. Hurry up, they said. Make another. Gotta have it today. I don't know how many of these death trees Rome has, but they need another. You know, nothing's been the same since Jesus entered this country a few years ago. And now he's been sentenced to death on a Roman cross. How quickly things have turned. The strange thing is, earlier this week, he rode into town like a king. He was on a donkey. The crowd was huge. They were taking their coats off and paving the street with them. The donkey's hooves didn't even touch the stone. They were pulling palm branches off the trees and waving them, praising him, shouting, Hosanna! They called him their king, Messiah. They thought he'd come to rule the land. They thought he'd lead some kind of rebellion. And this Jesus, he spoke unlike anyone ever before. He said, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. That doesn't sound like a king to me. He said, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. That doesn't sound like a king either. He said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Whatever, wherever heaven is. He said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." Now I'll ask you, how does anyone see a God who cannot be seen? And he said that if the temple were destroyed, he'd rebuild it in 3 days. Doesn't he know it took 150,000 workers 7 years to build that temple? And he says he could rebuild it in 3 days by himself. I don't know what that's all about. Earlier this week, Jesus caused a huge disruption from in the temple, and powerful people are really unhappy with him. They took him before Pilate, the chief judge over all Judea, who pronounced him to be innocent 5 times. And yet, he is still going to be executed. How quickly things have turned. You know, crucifixion has got to be the worst, most torturous, painful, humiliating way to die. I'd rather rot in one of their smelly dungeons than face this. It was invented by the Persians, and when Rome conquered Persia, they adopted the practice, became experts at it. It's what Rome does to anyone who causes a stir, makes a commotion. It's how they handle sedition. It's how they get people to cower before the authority of Rome. Tens of thousands, including women and children, have been crucified. You know, and then another thing this Jesus said. He claimed to be the Son of God, which, according to their rules, their scriptures, is blasphemy. Anyone who claims to be God or the Son of God has committed blasphemy, punishable by death. So they took him to Pilate, and Pilate sent him to a scourging with a cat of 9 tails, which is a terrible whip. Actually, multiple whips woven to a single handle with shards of bone and metal tied to each tail. And with each hit, the shards cut into the body. The technique isn't so much about the strike as it is the follow through. It rips flesh and muscle from the skeleton. You know, the body doesn't even look human after a scourging. He was sentenced to 40 lashes, which is often fatal. Many have died receiving far fewer. Now, I don't know how many they gave him, but I do know it was at least one short of killing him. You see, he wouldn't be visible enough tied to the whipping post there in the square. No, he's drawn crowds numbering in the thousands. So they will elevate him on a cross. So as many as possible see him die. That ought to do it. The crucifixion, following the scourging, is made all the more painful. I know you might have seen an artist's rendering of crucifixion, and the artist probably drew the person still wearing some undergarments to extend modesty. But they want this to be humiliating. Drew it up there. So, make no mistake. Before they lay him on the cross, they will strip him naked. Then stretch him out on it. And we will drive a nail through each hand or wrist, depending on how they decide to do it. And then the cruelest nail of them all, through his feet. Cruel, not because it's painful, which it is painful, but because it extends the suffering. You see, the human body, suspended by the arms, it's not possible to exhale. He would suffocate far too quickly. But that nail through the feet, as painful as it is, will allow him to push up, dragging his ripped up back against the rugged cross, to exchange air, only to slump again. Some people have lived as many as 3 days in this manner. Finally, when they think it's gone on long enough, the soldiers will take clubs or sledgehammers and break his legs, making him unable to raise for another breath. Or sometimes they'll take a sword or a spear, run him through as he hangs there. Either way, he'll be dead. The cross is slow. It is painful. And it is undeniable. No one survives a crucifixion. The Romans are professionals. If the Roman coroner who pronounces him dead is wrong, he'll be crucified for his mistake. So he'll be dead. And that will be the end of him. It will scatter his followers and drive them silent. Is this Jesus who he says he is? I don't know. I don't know. But this is what I do know. Of the thousands who have already been crucified, can you name any? Me neither. You see, the cross has a way of erasing people from history. So, if he's not who he says he is, you'll never hear of him again. But if he's anything like who he says he is, if he's only half of who everybody else says he is, then the cross and even death won't be able to erase him. No, if he really is the Messiah, the Redeemer, the King of Kings, and the Lord of Lords, no matter what happens next, people will talk about him forever.